Hello and welcome back to the movies made us do it. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, sir. You?
I'm all right. Yeah, doing okay. Well, we've watched quite a few things this time. So where do you want to start? I've only seen a couple of movies, but
I think you should probably start with your big one then.
Oh, do you want to start with The Batman?
Yeah, might as well. I think that's the big one.
Kicking it off immediately with The Batman. So yes, I saw The Batman. Went to see it with Ben. I said to him, he messaged me. It was like in the week. He was like, "Hey, do you want to go see The Batman?" On last Saturday before. Of course, because we do the movie review, the big movie review that we kind of deep dive into a movie. I forget, it's been 2 weeks now, so 2 weeks ago. And I said I joked to him at the time, I think we only see long movies now. That's it, because we saw June in the cinema and then we saw The Batman. But yeah. So yes, a cinema trip, and always nice to be in the cinema. You know, it's always nice to get to the cinema. I think, especially for these kind of big tentpole movies.
Yeah, as long as everybody's behaving themselves, it's always...
Yeah. It was fine. But anyway, yeah. So The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, and written, I think, by Matt Reeves as well, at least in part, along with Peter Craig. Starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell. Star-studded cast.
Yeah, I mean the cast is ridiculous, isn't it?
It's a tremendous cast. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure about some of the choices for some of the characters.
Right.
I mean, I like Andy Serkis, but I don't think I'd have ever picked him for Alfred.
So
and
yeah,
I certainly would never have picked Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Well, yeah. So it's interesting. We I guess we could start with the casting. Going in, I actually said to Ben, I really hope that the hype I'm hearing about the Penguin is more than just makeup, because yes, it's an amazing makeup job, but I hope that that Colin Farrell's performance is worthy, because I feel like whenever someone does like a fat suit or a big prosthetic, they're like, oh, Oscars. And it's like, but is it actually an Oscar worthy performance? I thought his performance was fantastic.
Okay.
He is, not only is he unrecognizable as like Colin Farrell, but he is a complete embodiment of this version of the Penguin. Anyway,
right.
You would never know it was him. Like, and I mean, his performance is
more mobster than grotesque. Is he?
He's a mobster who was he's obviously been scarred before. He's quite scarred, and he's working his way up basically. Right. He's working within the he's working for Falcone, but he's kind of working his way up through or at least he has ties to Falcone. So this is year 2 Batman. So we're 2 years into him being Batman. Now I do have a few issues with that.
Okay.
Well, the idea is obviously year 1. We've seen year 1, right? And thankfully we are spared in this movie. We're spared the pearls dropping on the floor and all of that good stuff. So we're in year 2.
No one ever needs to see that again.
No. But my kind of the issues I have with it being year 2 is that whilst Batman makes mistakes during this movie, and I'm kind of okay with it to a point.
Yeah.
The problem is that if you're year 2 Batman, to me, he'd be like, I don't know, 19 or something. And Robert Pattinson's like in his 30s. I would have thought by this point you're kind of peak Batman, not It kind of comes across a bit odd when he's
It depends on, because I think there are, like many of these heroes now, there are so many different
origins. Oh, of course, yeah.
But in my head, I've always liked the idea of him. First, he goes on, kind of like the Nolan. Even though I'm not a big fan of the Nolan movies, the whole him going off and joining, the ninjas and stuff. And, going to places, becoming a detective.
Yes.
I can't remember the French guy's name in the comics that he goes to see.
I've no idea.
But there's some really good stuff where he goes and sort of he trains with all these different
to hone his skills, and we're assuming that happened.
As soon as he becomes Batman, for me, I've always thought of must be at least mid-20s to late 20s.
Yeah, maybe it's just me then. It just, to me, I was like,
I think if he's supposed to be as good as he is by the time he's the Batman, because like you said, in year 1 and year 2, yeah, he's going to make mistakes because he's, all that sort of stuff. But still, he's trained, and I think if
he's clearly trained.
Done things, then it seems a bit weird that he's
he's clearly trained in this. I mean, he takes out several guys, but of course he will take punches as well. He gets beat up quite a lot. If he and I kind of like that in a way. If he's taking on like 10 guys, he's getting beat up too. He takes punches as well as gives them. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, I think it works quite well. I think Robert Pattinson's performance is fantastic for the Batman they're going for. We're big fans of Robert Pattinson anyway, so there's no surprise there. He's great in the role. The one criticism I would give, and it's not a criticism of Robert Pattinson, it's a criticism of the writing around Batman, is that, and I'm fine, we'll see how it goes, because we're going to make more Batman movies. In this one, there is zero difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne. He's Batman 100% of the time in this movie. Even when he's not wearing the cowl, he is just Batman. To the point that there's a few scenes where, like, I see him in scenes as Bruce Wayne, and I look at him and I'm like, you are clearly Batman. Like, you look like Batman. And there's a scene when he knocks on these mobsters' door, this club night. He goes to this club and he knocks on the door as Batman, and kind of like knocks out the mobsters or whatever. And later he comes back as Bruce Wayne, and I'm like, he looks like Batman. Like I can't, and his voice wasn't that much different either. So it was kind of a bit like, yeah, you do kind of look like Batman. So I think that's the one criticism I would give of the character in the movie, is that I'm kind of fine with this being year 2, but I want to see him develop that as we go through this series of films. I'm assuming they're making a trilogy, I would imagine.
It seems to be fucking standard.
Yeah, it's the thing to do, right? So assuming they do that, I would like to see him develop Bruce Wayne now.
Yeah.
I thought Zoe Kravitz was fantastic as Catwoman. Really liked her performance in this.
Okay.
Paul Dano is great. He's not really. I mean, they've updated the Riddler. He's an incel now.
I know.
He's no longer the Riddler, really. Although he does. I mean, he gives riddles and stuff. It's just not the Riddler that I'm used to, I should say.
No.
So he's.
Who'd have thought Jim Carrey would make a better Riddler, eh?
I don't know. Well, I'm kind of okay with it in this universe. Again, we're in the world of let's make Batman realistic.
Yeah,
which, for me,
it's really getting on my nerves.
It not only does it get on my nerves, but it also causes problems every time. I've always said my biggest issue with the Nolan trilogy is that they said it was realistic, and then they're using something to vaporize the water supply of Gotham and poison everyone, and then there's this atomic bomb, and Batman gets imprisoned like in, I don't know, Iraq or something, and walks back to Gotham. And it's all these things where I'm like, I wouldn't question this if we were in Burton's Batman world.
Yeah.
Or if we're in the comic book, or even the Snyderverse, right? But when you tell me it's realistic, I have issues. And that's one of the things I have in this, is like, this is way more grounded. This is more grounded than Nolan's trilogy in many ways.
It's just weird, isn't it?
But the problem comes, you've got a very grounded Batman, a very grounded world. Gotham is probably the next to Burton. If Burton had more sets, I think Burton might be it. But it's difficult when Burton only had one square to work with.
More than just a street.
The courthouse, and that's about it. But the Gotham feels real, it feels alive, and it's gorgeous. It's got that Gothic architecture. I think they did a lot in Edinburgh and whatnot, didn't they? And it shows.
Edinburgh,
it shows.
Liverpool, and it was all over the place.
But the when you tell me it's realistic, and then you've got an awesome Batmobile chase.
Yeah.
It's so over the top, though, that you're like, this is really grounded, and then you do this. And it's like, that's ridiculous now. And it wouldn't have been ridiculous if we were making a comic book movie, but we're making a movie like it's basically Seven, but with Batman. And then in the middle of it, there's a huge car chase. This like ridiculous, not just a car chase, but like a ridiculous car chase. Lots of people die on the freeway. Let's put it that way.
Jesus. it's still one of the weirdest things for me. Is we said before, is the whole idea that you ground Batman, because by doing that, you're really
it's stupid.
He's got the biggest roster of villains, and by grounding it, you're basically just
you can't do Mr. Freeze, you can't do Poison Ivy, you can't do
villains.
Killer Croc, you can't do Man Bat, you can't
Clayface.
do Clayface. Like, you're right, most of those characters.
Man Bat, yeah, exactly. It's all those really cool bad guys that we love. You're basically all you're doing is you're making grounded Joker, grounded Penguin, grounded thingy, and grounded
Two-Face maybe.
Two-Face at a push, and then
and that was the problem with the Nolan trilogy, was like
fucking Scarecrow.
And Scarecrow.
I'm fucking sick of Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm. So, you've also got scenes where, like I said, in the fight scenes, it's gritty, it's down to earth, and you're like, yeah, okay, he's getting punched, he's getting beat up as well, I believe it. But then, towards the end, they shoot machine guns at him, and I know he's wearing body armor, but if you get shot with a bullet, you're going down. It's going to hit your back, and it's the kind of thing I'm fine if it's the Snyderverse, but you've made a grounded Batman, and now I'm like, he's walking towards them as they're firing at him, and it's making no difference to him whatsoever. I mean, if you see someone, look online at someone getting shot with body armor on.
Yeah.
It hurts and they fall back and, or they at least react to it, So it's kind of difficult to contrast those two things. And this is where I think ultimately, like you, doing a realistic Batman doesn't quite work. That said, the movie they have made, I think, is really, really good for the most part. I loved we finally get to see Batman be a detective. Great. Yeah. Great.
Which is good, because the thing is, that's what he promised from the beginning of he got
that was his thing, wasn't it, really, I think.
And then when we saw the trailers, it was like, well, there's no evidence of that in this trailer.
But he is. So he is year 2. He is working with Gordon. The rest of the police are kind of pissed off that he's working with, I think he's a Sergeant Gordon in this. Right. The rest of the police are kind of annoyed, but Sergeant Gordon keeps letting the Batman onto crime scenes and keeps letting Batman get involved in these investigations. So we actually have, it kind of feels very 66, where you've got Batman at a crime scene with the police, and it feels very Zorro-y as well, in a weird way.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's the mask, because it's like a leather mask. It just kind of has a bit of a Zorro-y look. But yeah, so he's actually at the crime scenes. He's actually figuring things out, working things out. He's got this cool he's got like contact lenses that are able to record footage. So whatever he sees, he then goes back to the Bat computer and looks through and kind of pours through it to kind of work out things. And obviously the Riddler is giving him riddles. He is really dumb in some cases. Some of the riddles, you're like, how did you... At one point, one of the riddles is like about a flying rat.
Right.
Or a rat with wings. And and he thinks it's the Penguin. And then they go on this big car chase and they take down the Penguin, and then the Penguin's like, it's a fucking bat, you dickhead. And like, it's like, you're the world's greatest detective, Batman. How did you go to the Penguin rather than yourself? Flying rat.
Penguins are flying. One, penguins don't fly.
I think it was a flying rat, something like that. But it was something really obvious to where as soon as it came up, I was like, well, it's Batman, obviously. And he was like, the Penguin. I was like, what? Okay. But yeah, we finally get to see him be a detective. We get to see him kind of learning, and in a much, we do get to see him kind of learn. He's got much more of a story arc in this than he probably did in the Nolan trilogy, where, he learned a little, but he was pretty much just the perfect badass from the start. But we finally get to see that. I think it's an interesting story. I think it's a fun story. I liked the story overall. The plan of the Riddler. I don't, like I said, it's a very different take on the Riddler. You're gonna either love that or hate it. I didn't mind it. I was fine with it. Fine with it being an incel and that, his overall plan. The issues come from me the last sort of 15-20 minutes of this movie. It falls off a cliff for me. To me, it feels like they had this 7 detective movie.
Yeah.
That for me had a satisfying end. They catch the Riddler. They figure it out. And they catch him, but they don't catch him with a massive fight. he effectively goes to a coffee shop and they catch him in the coffee shop once Batman's figured out what he was doing. And there's this great thing where, well, great in some ways, depends what you're trying to go with, but it feels like we get to that point and we're like, okay, movie done. And then the Batman has an interview with him at Arkham. He talks to the Riddler at Arkham, and the Riddler basically thought that Batman was helping him the whole time. He thought that Batman was on his side. He was leaving clues for the Batman because the Batman's a vigilante and the Batman's been taking down crime. So the Riddler's uncovered this, or is involved in this whole plot to uncover the dark, seedy underbelly of Gotham and these public figures who need to be exposed. And he thought by giving the clues, Batman was helping. Cool ending. But then it feels like there was a screening and there was like a committee of people that were like, you can't end the movie without a huge action scene. So then they were like, okay. So this incel who has 500 followers online suddenly has enough people behind him to like blow up the sea walls around Gotham, flooding Gotham, and then there's going to be this big shootout and Batman comes in to save the day at the end. So we get our action set piece, our tremendous action set piece. Very well directed, but felt completely unnecessary and needless at the end of this movie. It's like tacked on because someone in the studio said we need an action ending. You can't possibly have a movie that just, they catch the guy and it's fine. No, we must have our big action set piece in a stadium. And
oh, not a stadium again.
Oh yeah, it's a stadium because the seawalls collapse and then it's like, they're going to evacuate everyone to the stadium, and that's where he wants one of his last targets is going to be at the stadium. So the Batman has to make the save. But overall, I really enjoyed it. It, again, has some silly moments, like I said, and those silly moments are mostly derived from the fact that this movie tries to be realistic. Really awkward framing in some shots as well, weirdly. Like, there's a scene where Batman... at the end of the movie, Catwoman is... she's at a gravesite. And she turns around and Batman's there. And she's like, Jesus Christ, do you ever just say hello? Because he snuck up on her and did the Batman thing. And they have this exchange and it's great. Really well shot. But then the camera cuts and kind of pans around slightly. And her bike's there. And the Bat bike's right next to it. So you're like, you snuck up on her on the motorbike? And she didn't hear your motorbike?
Maybe you pushed it.
Maybe he silently pushed it up. Yeah, maybe he did. It was like things like that where you're like, that's weird. You could have just put it, at the end. You could have just cut to another shot of them walking out of the graveyard or whatever, and it would have made much more sense if the bikes were a little further away. So yeah, weird things like that aside, I thought the performances are fantastic by everyone. Jeffrey Wright's great as Gordon. Really, really liked his Gordon. Yeah, so overall, I think it's a good movie. It's definitely flawed, and I would say, for me, it was overlong. It's almost 3 hours, I think, or maybe is 3 hours. And honestly, for me, that whole action set piece at the end could have just gone. Could have done without it, personally. But an uneven but well directed. I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves, and I think this movie looks stunning. The framing's great. The direction's fantastic. It didn't feel like 3 hours, to its credit, but I do think you could have lost that action set piece at the end, for me personally. And I would like to see more of. I know you said you weren't sure about Andy Serkis's Alfred. I would like to see more of Andy Serkis's Alfred.
I suppose I didn't mean he couldn't play Alfred. I'm just saying I wouldn't have cast him as Alfred.
It's a different Alfred.
I'm sure he does a good job.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a different take on Alfred. This is a younger Alfred and an Alfred. This obviously, we always get those hints that Alfred used to be in the SAS or used to have some
I
history.
would argue that in general we've had better Alfreds than we have Batman, but
well, it's funny you should say that, because in terms of the riddles of this movie, it's actually Alfred that solves most of the riddles. Batman doesn't Like, I mean, literally, Alfred's at home just working on the riddles, and he figures most of them out. So it's kind of a team effort at this stage in Batman's career, which is fine, I guess. We don't see him very much, and we don't see Colin Farrell's Penguin very much. But what I do see of them, I thought was great. So I'm looking forward to seeing more. I'm looking forward to see what they do with the sequel. I think it's a good film overall. I do have, unfortunately, like you, I have that issue. I think making a realistic Batman is a really silly decision to make. Batman is ridiculous, and the further you stray away from the comics and just making it a silly fantasy movie, the more ridiculous it gets. So yeah, and then the movie the movie ends with Bruce Batman saying
Bruce Batman.
I wasn't sure if I was making a difference, but now I know I've made a difference. And I turned to Ben and I said, yeah, he's made everything fucking worse. Because, like, the whole movie is like the Riddler thought Batman was helping him. Like, the Riddler was basically inspired by Batman. So it's kind of like, you fucked everything up. Like, this was all you're doing, basically. And that might have been intentional. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a very strong movie, very strong showing from Matt Reeves and the whole cast. My issues with the realistic Batman aside, thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I sound like I've just moaned about it, but I did really enjoy it overall. I thought it was really, really good. I would have lost the end personally, but yeah, overall, very good, very good. So what else? What have you watched? What else have you watched? What have you watched?
I am going to go with 1883.
1883. Yes, starring Sam Elliott.
Yeah. So this is a prequel to Yellowstone. So it's a TV series.
Oh yes, you said about this. I think off air we talked about this last week. I didn't know this was the thing.
Yeah, so there's a series. I can't remember how many seasons is it in now. It's a few seasons out. 4 seasons I think are out at the moment.
Right.
Yeah, 4 seasons are out at the moment. I've only seen 1 season. And it's basically that is about the Dutton family in is it Montana? Yeah, Montana, and they have this like shitloads of land, and they have this huge ranch, and it's Kevin Costner and Luke Grimes and Kelly Riley, and it's the family sort of machinations and all that sort of stuff, right? So this is a prequel series set in 1883, and it's how the family got to Montana.
Okay.
So
now, from what you told me last week,
yes,
it sounds depressing as shit. Didn't you say it's basically the Oregon Trail?
So it's basically the Oregon Trail.
Oh man.
So so you basically, I think you're first introduced to Sam Elliott, who isn't a Dutton, but he's this Shea Brennan, who is this and it's probably one of the most harrowing introductions to a character ever.
Okay.
I'm not. I don't. It doesn't matter. I think if I spoil this, really. So basically, he's in this house with. Well, you see him. He's basically just in tears. His wife and his daughter have just died of smallpox.
Jesus. Okay.
And he's literally setting fire to the house, and he's sat there.
Oh.
And he's about to shoot himself.
Mm-hmm.
When Thomas, played by LaMonica Garrett, sort of appears and says, are you coming or not, sort of thing. I think some time has passed between the fire and this.
Yeah.
He's going to kill himself, but he sort of doesn't shoot himself, and he goes with him. So these two are Pinkertons, and they've been hired to lead this group of, I think it's mostly Germans, but I think other nationalities as well, across to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, you're then introduced to James Dutton and his wife Margaret and his daughter Elsa, and James played by Tim McGraw and Margaret played by Faith Hill, who were a real couple in real life, and for anybody who doesn't know, are country and western singers.
Yeah.
Tim McGraw, I'm not au fait with his music. I don't really know it. I know. I've heard.
I was gonna say I'm aware that he. Yeah, I'm exactly. Kind of vaguely aware.
I certainly couldn't hum one back to you.
No. But I am aware. Yeah.
Faith Hill, a bit. I have heard a little more. I do know some Faith Hill tracks. That's at least,
that's something.
So basically, they're going along as well, but they're not together. So James Dutton, basically, he gets, or somebody tries to rob him, and he ends up shooting some dude, and he proves that he's not to be messed with. So Sam Elliott basically goes to him and says, "Look, I'm taking these fucking useless foreigners.
Yeah,
like they've got no fucking clue how to.
They've got no hope. So I'm gonna. Yeah.
I mean, these people like have literally no clue how to do almost anything. They are basically like proper peasants. Like they've been not allowed to do anything. They've like there's at one point where they're trying. They've got to cross this river, and Sam Elliott's sort of like, you just fucking swim across, and they're all like, we don't know how to swim.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
You don't know how to swim. It's like, well, where we were, swimming was illegal. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Swimming's illegal where you're from? It's like, yeah, none of us ever learned to swim. So you got this like whole bunch of German peasants who are like, they are proper useless.
Yeah, like they're in the wilderness and they have no survival skills whatsoever.
So he hired or
not even survival skills, like fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean they drink from the river or get sick.
Jesus!
Like, no. Boil the fucking water is like, do you not? I mean, sometimes you do sort of think, are they really that fucking dumb? I mean, I guess they must be, but you would have thought maybe not. But anyway, they hire a couple of other people. Eventually, he does persuade the Duttons to sort of go with them, and they go along, and there's the usual sort of things that you would expect from this. They get besieged by bandits and all that sort of stuff. But what it's mostly about is the character of Elsa Dutton, who's the daughter, and it's for her it's a coming of age. She's literally just sort of become a woman. And she is like her dad. She knows how to ride. She knows how to mostly to look after herself to a certain degree. She's not very ladylike. Her mother despairs that she's never going to find a husband because she's too willful and she's too sort of headstrong and all that sort of stuff. And then the dad's like, yeah, I kind of like that about her, sort of thing. So you get that sort of dynamic. But there's the character. She's played by Isabel May, who I actually saw in the film I Want You Back a while ago. She played this teenager in it. I Want You Back I hated, but there's a bit where the two of the main characters go to this nightclub and they end up with these girls and they go back to her house.
Right.
It's like clearly that this girl's underage, and it was her. It's this actress.
Hmm.
She is absolutely phenomenal. The series has a voiceover by her. It's her telling the story, if you like.
Right.
And she does all these things. She falls for one of the herders, one of the cowboys who they've hired to sort of help out. She looks after the cattle. She does all these sort of like very manly things that, and I think she's amazing. She's really, really great. And I again, there is no way I'm going to spoil this because I think
no, sure,
it needs to be seen. But I think I've seen some of the reviews that have said the voice, they hated the voiceover, they hated her character, and it's like, well, if that's the case, then you're really not going to like this.
Sure, yeah, like if you're not on board with this character, you're kind of done.
Yeah. I was pretty impressed with Tim McGraw. I thought he was, I've never seen him in anything else before, and I was, he's clearly not the best of actors, but I think he was doing pretty good with what he he had, and I think he was relatively believable as the sort of patriarch of
Sure.
his family.
Okay.
I thought Faith Hill was a little better. I'm sure I've seen her in things before. Anyway,
Yeah.
she's got. I think she seems to have a little more acting experience than he does, but I could be wrong there. Sam Elliott is Sam Elliott.
Of course.
I mean, he's just.
I mean, he's fantastic in everything.
There's a really great dynamic between him and Tim McGraw, because they have. Sam Elliott is basically, he's at the end. He's literally said, I'm taking these people to Oregon. I'm going to a fucking beach, and then I'm gonna shoot myself. Basically,
yeah. I'm doing this, and then I'm done. Yeah.
I want to. He's basically says his wife never saw the ocean, sort of thing, and he's taking her with him, sort of thing, in his head. He's going to this beach, and then that's what he's going to do. So he kind of wants to look after these people, but he's fucking so exasperated by them and how useless they are. Like, only basically one of the Germans speaks English.
Right.
I think you learn later that some of them do, but they don't really say much. And he's pissed off that this one guy just doesn't step up and try and control them. And as he says, they're not my people. We're all different groups here. It's not as simple as me just being in charge. They're not going to fucking listen to me because they don't know who I am.
Mm.
And Tim McGraw is more of a he's slightly more. I mean, he's a hard ass, but he slightly understands them better. He can sort of motivate them slightly better than the Sam Elliott character.
Sure.
And the Thomas character played by LaMonica Garrett, who I've never seen before, he's really good. He plays this sort of sergeant who clearly was in the war with Sam Elliott's captain before, and Sam McGraw's that character. He was in the war as well, but he was on the south side. So you've got that dynamic going as well. That these two,
bit of tension there.
Yeah, they were both captains in opposite armies, and they both. Really, the war is over, so there's no sort of real sort of, oh, I hate you because you're. And
I guess there's mutual respect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's more of that. But for me, it's the Elsa character. I think she's got this amazing vibrance that she's completely living in the moment. She's out on the plane and she's enjoying everything. She's enjoying the trees. She's enjoying everything. She's completely, burning through her life. She's completely hanging on for dear life and just pushing herself. And I thought she was amazing, really, really good. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is fucking depressing. There are some seriously fucking miserable things in this.
Well, the Oregon Trail was never going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know about the Oregon Trail, or if you've ever played the video game, it's not a fun time.
I have heard that it wasn't as bad as all that.
Sure.
For the majority, because you think, well, people did survive. They did go.
Oh yeah. Some people made it, clearly.
Yeah, exactly. Taylor Sheridan, who was the writer, he previously written Hell or High Water and Sicario. So he's he's got
pedigree,
really writing chops. I totally recommend Yellowstone, even though I've only seen the sort of first sort of season of it so far. But this, you don't need to have seen Yellowstone because I haven't, like I said, but to see this, because it's not about that. It's about the earlier family. So it's no characters are, carried over, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Though I think there's a flashback episode in Yellowstone that James and Margaret do appear in.
Oh, okay.
But I thought this was amazing. If you want to see something that's if you liked Deadwood or Hell on Wheels, this is that sort of Western. It's really gritty. It's really grungy. There's lots of swearing and cussing and violence. It's really, really good, and I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, it sounds great. I haven't seen Yellowstone either, so
yeah, I recommend that too. Yellowstone. Kevin Costner's really good.
Would you recommend Yellowstone first, or does it not really matter?
No, I don't think it matters because it's literally just how the family got to the ranch in Montana.
Sure.
How they got to where where they're going, sort of thing. Whereas the Yellowstone is literally it's like a sort of, I don't know, I suppose it's a sort of kind of like a Dallas dynasty type thing, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm not trying not to equate that to bad soap opera sort of thing, but it's that sort of thing, you know. It's a family dynasty owning land and having this massive ranch, and people trying to come in, and it's oh bloody hell, what's his name? Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't know. Shall I?
Danny Houston.
Okay.
Danny Houston is playing this guy who's trying to build like new homes and this like hotel and all this sort of stuff, and he's trying to sort of work on the land that they own, and you know, there's the conflict between them. So Yellowstone, I would recommend. I mean, the opening scene in the first episode of Yellowstone is like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking some way to start your series.
Right.
I won't spoil that at all, but in a similar way, 1883 literally does that as well with Sam Elliott's character. I did spoil that a little.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
it's totally spoiled it. But you know, like I said, it is completely harrowing at times, and I absolutely loved the daughter character. I thought she was amazing. I was completely with her character for the whole series.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a really good little series. It's just, from what I gathered, I think they initially were just going to do one season of it, but I think it's proved so popular that I'm pretty sure they're going to give it a second season.
Right. Yeah. Cool. What do you want to talk about next?
Shall we go with the Adam Project?
Project Adam, isn't it? Is it the Adam Project or Project Adam? I'm not sure which. I can't remember myself. Can't remember the name of it. You're right. It's the Adam Project. Yes, the Adam Project. Yes. So yes, the Adam Project, directed by Sean Levy and starring Ryan Reynolds as Ryan Reynolds, being Ryan Reynolds, and Walker Scobell as younger Ryan Reynolds. It's a Ryan Reynolds movie.
Well, we've also got Mark Ruffalo. And we've got Jennifer Garner. We've got Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, it's got a good cast.
Catherine Kinnear. A
solid cast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've both seen this one, so that's nice. Yep. We can talk about this. So we see a dystopian 2050, and we see a fighter pilot called Adam Reed. Steals a time jet and goes and escapes back to 2018. However, he crashes in 2022 and he meets his 12-year-old self.
Yeah.
And his 12-year-old self has dealing with, I think, a year or so ago, the loss of his father in a car accident. And basically Adam, well, he basically enlists his younger self. And what follows is
basically his ship's damaged, and because he, for some,
the dumbest fucking ship mechanic ever. So apparently, because he's really hurt, the ship won't let him fly.
Yeah.
Or do anything. Wouldn't even let him repair it, I think he says, doesn't he? He's like, I can't even repair it because I'm hurt.
Yeah, he can't access it at all because he's been injured.
That's really useful. Imagine if all of their military gear does that, and they're in battle, and they're like, I've been shot, so now I can't use my gun.
Dear, you can't use this anymore. I'm shutting down.
The tank doesn't work anymore, guys. Sorry. The fuck. But so what follows, I think is, for the most part, a generally fun, sci-fi action movie. The main issue I had with this film, if I can start with a moan, is that I feel like there was a prologue that we entirely missed. We don't get any real backstory,
proper information about the future.
Proper information, which I feel like it was needed.
It kind of gets eked out throughout the movie, but not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. You tell because of the Sorin, is it?
Yeah, something like that.
Saurian character played by Catherine Kinnear. It's basically the future's gone to shit because of her character. That's basically what you learn. And you realise that it was his father that invented
time travel. He invented it accidentally.
Yeah.
So yeah, so basically we've got obviously Ryan Reynolds playing Adam. We've got Walker playing young Adam, and then we've got Mark Ruffalo is Adam's father.
Yeah.
Jennifer Garner's the mother, and then Zoe Saldana is Adam's girlfriend from the future. Wife from the future. Who is fantastic but barely in it, and she kind of gets thrown away. Weirdly during this movie.
It feels like she had.
It's like they paid her by the hour, and they're like, "Well, we're out of money."
Yeah, exactly. That is like, well, we've got 50 quid. Can we have you for 10 minutes? Is that all right?
It's a shame because I genuinely bought the chemistry between her and Ryan Reynolds. I thought they were really good together, and then she's just gone. Like, oh,
I actually thought the Walker's.
He's great. The kid again. We get these
completely channels Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, he does. He does a very good job.
He's a real mouthy little shit. I thought it was quite. It was
quite
good. Yeah. And it was quite interesting. The sort of younger older dynamic. I thought that worked quite well because I think. There's a bit where they're talking to each other over like a picnic table, and you realise that at this point, young Adam still loves his dad, but doesn't like his mother.
And old Adam hates his dad.
Yeah, at some point
he switches.
That changed when he went to like college.
I think he says college.
His attitude towards his mother and his father sort of flipped.
Yes, and he's very regretful of the way he treated his mother at the time, at the age of 12.
Yeah.
So it's a good setup.
I thought that was okay. I thought
I thought it was okay.
I read one or two reviews that said they hated the fact that what's young Adam? What does he know? Why is he talking? It's like, well, because he's
just lost his father.
He's literally just telling it from his point of view.
Yeah, and he has a valid point of view. He's a child.
Yeah, exactly. He's not doing it from any like great wisdom thing.
For me, this
he feels.
Yeah. For me, this movie really peaks when we're introduced to Mark Ruffalo. That's kind of when the movie starts to get some real heart and real kind of. Before that is kind of all the jokes.
Yeah.
It's joke, and then we get to the kind of the emotional core of the movie with Mark Ruffalo being the father, and obviously he is then aware that both Adams are from the future, and he realizes that it's because of time travel, and we get some really nice moments between them.
I did love the fact that he immediately recognized his son.
Yes. There
was no fucking about. That was good.
Yeah.
He
knew.
One of those a few times where he's just like, "Oh, you're Adam." It's like, shit. He just literally went, "Oh, that's my son."
Yeah,
that I thought was really good. I really thought that was sweet.
Yeah, there are some really nice moments. I liked the character of Saurian, both younger and older. Although the younger version CGI was a little.
The effects in this movie, there were some really good ones.
Yeah, some really good ones and really bad ones. Yeah,
her de-aging is terrible,
awful. One of the worst I've seen in a long time, actually.
Yeah. It was like 90s, wasn't it?
Soulless dead eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it almost looks. Even the movement seemed weird.
Yeah, it all seemed really weird. And you like imagine there must have been a motion capture or a person there.
Well, I would have thought they would have just.
I'm assuming it's just a face swap, but surely
surely they just got her to do it.
But you're right. Even the movement seemed a bit weird. I don't know, but but I liked the idea that she'd kind of gone back and that her younger self was kind of reluctant and just like you're ruining my life. Like, leave me alone. She hadn't
got to that point yet.
She's not there.
Abandoned all of her, sanity and morals. Yeah.
This movie's got. I don't want to necessarily call it a soundtrack. It's got a playlist.
Yeah.
A
pretty good playlist.
It's a good playlist, but we're in that, post Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just like there's no rhyme or reason to half the songs. They're great songs. I like all of the songs, just like I did in Suicide Squad. But they're just chucked in, they're on shuffle.
They work better than the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's being a bit harsh. Yeah,
the first Suicide Squad really bungled.
Oh yeah.
Those fucking tunes.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. It's better executed here. But
have you ever seen 13 Going on 30?
No.
So that's Jennifer Garner. She plays this character who, like in the 80s, when she's 13, she wishes that she was 30. She has this terrible birthday party.
Okay.
And she wishes she was 30.
It's big, is it?
Basically? Yeah, it's sort of. It basically, it's not quite that big in that she turns big. She literally quantum leaps into her 30-year-old self.
Oh, I see. So it actually, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she ends up in her 30-year-old self, and the boy that was her best friend when she was 13 grows up to be Mark Ruffalo.
Right.
So and in my brain it was like, oh, she's Jenna Rink.
It's that family, yeah.
And Mark Ruffalo's playing Matty. They grew up to be Adam's parents.
But yeah, I thought this was overall a really fun kind of, somewhat.
I think the sort of the side characters are all really underused.
Yeah. I could have done without the references as well, or at least the over explanation of the references is not enough to be like, yeah, it looks like a lightsaber. It's like, oh, it's like a lightsaber from those Star Wars films, and it's like the Terminator but worse. And it's like, okay, like every fucking 5 minutes we got to reference some other movie. Oh, it's a superhero landing. Yes, I know. Fucking Ryan Reynolds was Deadpool. I fucking know. He's been the same character for the last decade. I get it.
You can tell they literally did that because it was Ryan Reynolds.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because this movie has been around for fucking ever. I think like Tom Cruise was attached in like 2012.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the script has been bouncing around, and you can kind of see all the references they've added since 2012. Like they've clearly added a lot. But overall, like honestly,
I did like the face-off teacher.
Yeah, that was cool. That was really
funny.
Cool. I like when he's like, "Oh, I just got that T-shirt."
Yeah,
yeah.
That was actually genuinely funny. Honestly, I actually really enjoyed this movie.
So did I. Overall, it was
fun.
Yeah,
it's not It's not a good movie.
I don't think it's a bad movie either, though.
But it's not a bad movie.
It's middle of the road. It's basically exactly what I thought I was getting from the trailer.
Yes.
It's Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
In a fun kind of time travel.
Yeah, and I think it helps.
It's good fun, and it's got a bit of soul and a bit of heart.
The kid's good. Yeah, exactly. The kid's good. Even though the side performances aren't used enough, that what they are, they're all good.
I loved the game of catch at the end. It was really nice. There's some really nice scenes in this movie. There are really, amongst it all. But for the most part, it's just a silly kind of action time travel movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the time travel stuff, they didn't get too hung up on the actual specifics.
No, and I think this movie doesn't take itself seriously enough that it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. I think you can if you
could tear it apart for sure.
Definitely tear it apart. But I don't think you need to because it's not that sort of movie. They're not trying to do
Primer or something.
Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah,
they're not doing Primer.
That's like my go-to amazing time travel movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you wanted proper fucking time travel, go to Primer.
Yeah.
Because that movie's fucking amazing. If you just want silly time travel shenanigans, this is it. It is genuinely fun.
Yeah.
It's genuinely funny. There is a lot of laughs. There are some brilliant little bits where the younger Adam thinks older Adam is going to confront his bullies.
Yeah, that was great. And he's like, good. No, I can't. Like, do you not realize that you getting the shit kicked out of you as a kid made you me? Like, you have to get beat up. That had to happen. I love the bit at the end as well when young Adam picks up the lightsaber thing. And I can't remember what he says. He says something really arrogant and the guy just punches him. Kicks him. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
it was fun.
If as long as you don't expect anything amazing, if you just want a nice little fun,
it's harmless
sci-fi movie, with Ryan Reynolds, because you know what you're going to get from Ryan Reynolds. I think something like Free Guy was way better. Free
Guy was amazing. I loved Free Guy.
This is just fun.
Yeah,
it's just a fun little movie.
Yeah, it is, and it is good fun though. Very good fun. So yes, that was the Adam Project. So what else do you want to talk about, Matt?
So I shall go with Hellbender.
Hellbender, yes, a film I know nothing about actually. So curious to hear about this one.
So this is so this one of the interesting things about this is it's directed by John Adams, and he's previously done a couple of other sort of horror movies and stuff that I haven't seen,
Right.
but I've heard pretty good things about them. So the there's a mother played by Toby Poser,
Right.
daughter played by Zelda Adams, Izzy, and then there's a friend. Well, not a friend. She meets this girl later on, played by Lulu Adams, and those four people are a family, literally in real life. This movie is a complete family affair.
Is it a family-made movie?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. I'm kind of down with that.
This one was as well. So, yeah, it was done during the pandemic, so it's one of those sort of, let's just do something.
Let's go to the woods and film some stuff.
Kind of, yeah. It does feel like that. So you were well, actually, at the very beginning, you get I think it must be the 1800s because one of the women's is using a Lamat revolver. So yeah, it must be. It's 1800s. Anyway, you basically introduce. You see this woman covered in blood, looks like she's eating someone, and then it cuts to them hanging her and her not dying, and they shoot her in the head and she still doesn't die, and then all of a sudden she bursts into flames and flies off, and that's and then the movie begins.
That's quite an opening.
Yeah, it's a really good opening. And you're then introduced to Izzy and her mother, and they live in this big house in the woods, and they're isolated from everybody. And Izzy has an immune deficiency illness,
right?
Disease, however you want to. And so her mother keeps her away from everybody. She keeps her in this house, and she says, look, if you go anywhere, you're going to get sick, and
sure,
I don't want that. So that's why we live here. And they have this goth band called Hellbender. That
the name of the film, yeah.
Yeah, Izzy plays drums, and the mother plays bass. And actually, the tunes are pretty good. They're
okay.
They're pretty good rocky tunes.
Yeah.
I assume they've made them themselves as well. They're not bad. And one day Izzy is walking along, and she hears laughter, and she goes to this this house that on the sort of, I'm guessing it's like the border of their property, and she meets Amber, who's sort of at first is like, who the fuck are you, sort of thing, and she's like, oh, I just live next door, so I just, and she's like, okay, come on over, have a beer with me, and she sits there and she kind of gets on with this girl, and eventually Amber says, oh, I'm leaving, I've got to go now, come back here tomorrow, you can meet some of my sort of friends. So the next day she goes back. Her mother, you see, her mother is you literally see her mother casting spells to watch what her daughter's doing. She's there's some really nice little sort of effects there's a really cool effect that I liked was the mother goes up to this, I guess it must be the loft sort of thing, and there's a symbol carved into the wall, and she puts her hand over it, and a key comes out of the back of her hand. It's really cool. It's a neat little trick. I like it. And she goes into this room and she uses this spell. She's got this sort of grimoire that she sort of reads through. She uses. And they're vegetarians. They only eat berries and stuff.
Right.
And when she meets these other kids in this pool, the boy basically, he's got this tequila, and he says, what we're going to do is we're going to play this game. I'm going to put a real worm in one of the drinks, and whoever gets the worm has to eat it.
Right.
Izzy's like, well, I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. And it's like, it's fine. Just do it. So dishes it out. Obviously, she's going to get the worm. So she gets the worm. She knocks back the drink, swallows the worm, and then has this amazing reaction to eating this worm. She basically starts shaking and she screams, and they're all sort of sat there looking at her, and it's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Right.
And then I won't say anything else about how that happened, but obviously something's now happened.
Yeah.
And what you get is they clearly filmed this. I think they must have moved around a bit and they filmed in different places. You get some absolutely stunning woodland scenes. There is this beautiful waterfall that they found that they filmed some of them. Right, it's like those scenes are amazing. The effects for the most part are pretty good. You do get these dream sequences where after she's eaten the worm, she starts having these sort of like waking dreams where she's sort of talking to her mother and her mother's talking to her, and she sees that. Is it spoiling it to tell you? Well, I think you get the gist. They're witches. They're
yeah.
You know, it's not like, but there are certain kind. They're these hellbenders who basically get their magic from consuming life.
Right.
So
she's consumed life by eating the.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's sort of,
it's awakened her abilities, I guess.
Yeah, she ate the worm, and it basically gave her this jolt charge sort of thing.
So is the idea that they berries and stuff to have the least amount of life, so that they're overpowered or something?
Kind of, yeah. I would say that was, yeah. It's the actual consumption of, I guess, not so much living as in plants, but animals and stuff. That's also, and obviously, as it is in these things, the big kick is obviously going to be eating humans, because that's how these things are. It felt very like the Wheatley movie that I watched around Christmas, was it? I think
it was
In the Earth.
It was around maybe just before Christmas.
I think In the Earth is a better movie, but then that's because I'm more a Wheatley fan, but I don't think so. I think it was slightly better made. It's mostly a two-hander. It's mostly between Zelda Adams and her mum Toby.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a very sort of weird unevenness about the movie. There are times when their performances are really spot on, and you're getting a real sort of deep emotion from them. And then there are some times where it feels like they might have just taken the first take.
Right.
It feels like some of the time it just, oh, you were so good there. What happened there? Just something happened and it falls off a little.
That's a shame.
Some of the effects, some of the psychedelic stuff is, in some parts is really good, really, really good, really sort of gets in your brain. And other times I think it just falls slightly flat. It's like, but then there's some of these really good sort of facial. There's a really good face reveal at one point, which is like, wow, I like how they did that. So it's mixed in its quality. I mean, it at its core, I suppose it's a coming of age story. So it's Izzy not only becoming a woman, but becoming more than, So it's there's that, and I think that the dynamic between the mother and daughter are really, really good, really, really good. For the most part, other than a few minor sort of acting fails.
Sure.
Which again, I think it just feels like they maybe they just took the wrong take or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I do like the way they handle the sort of magic that in this the sort of it's clearly not just normal Wiccan. It's sort of weird from the devil magic.
Yeah.
I really liked it for the most part. I thought it was a really nice, for the most part, really good horror movie. Not in the sort of big jump scare type.
No.
In a sort of like the sort of almost like folk horror-y sort of grungier sort of.
And it's good that
stuff at times.
It's good that it kind of works and stands out in a genre that's become very over bloated with product lately. It feels like folk horror is very in vogue these days. So it sounds interesting. I recommend
it. I think it's not the best of this type, but I think it is a solid horror movie. I actually really liked it, and as I said, I would definitely watch something by them again, and I will go back and watch their previous movies because I think it was good enough. And I actually would say, I think when they do their next one, maybe it'll be that much better. You know what I mean? Whatever they do next, I'm actually genuinely looking forward to what they do next.
Cool.
Yeah, really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So, you have also watched The King's Man. So we can now talk about that. Obviously, I gave my review last time. The last time we did this type of show, I think. And now you've seen it, so you've seen the bit I didn't want to spoil. And so let's talk about it. How did you find The King's Man? I was quite a fan of it.
So I will say about the bit that you didn't spoil, and I'm so glad you didn't.
Yeah, it's a hell of a moment.
It's I was actually genuinely surprised because everything else.
I swore when it happened.
I knew who the bad guy was from the get go because somebody's already spoiled that.
Right.
And a few of the other bits and pieces I already knew because, like I said, other things had said it, and I was like, so I'm just going to enjoy it as it was.
Enjoy the ride, yeah.
When that scene happens, are we going to say?
I don't know because I don't want to spoil it for people that are listening. It's just a fucking hell of a shock, and it's a brilliant piece of cinematography.
A real genuine fucking shock. It was like, good God. And there's no sort of mistaking it either. It's literally.
Oh no! It is definite. It's definite. Yes.
Yeah. So I really liked it. I really loved it. All the performances are really good.
Yes, all of them. I would say
Gemma Arterton and Jimon Honshu get underused.
Yes, I liked
seeing them a little bit more.
I agree, and I'd like to see another sequel in this prequel series. Personally, because I think they're both fantastic, and I'd love to see more of them.
One thing I will say now, I understand it's hard because so the thing that was dodgy was for the first, let's say, 20 minutes of the movie, maybe a little longer, it is so sort of grounded and
yes, it does get to a moment, doesn't it? And then it suddenly,
and I think the thing is that because it's dealing with the First World War, you don't want to trivialize it too much.
No.
And I think they kind of they were really, I think
they try and
respectful of the First World War.
I think they're pretty respectful of it, and they weave their kind of narrative throughout real world events in quite a clever way as well, I thought.
And then you get to Rasputin.
Oh, it's just such a good scene, though. I get it. I agree.
So I watched it with my wife, and for me, because it was a case of I was expecting, because let's face it, it's
Christopher Lee, right? I mean,
the other two movies are over the top and silly and brilliant and funny.
Yes,
and that, and I was kind of expecting at some point this movie to do that.
And this is where you're right. This is where it does that.
This is the moment where it literally goes. And now we're going to do something.
And now we're a Kingsman movie.
Batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Rasputin doing fucking ballet dancing, fighting, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's a fucking huge shift tone, though.
The shift in tone is noticeable, but I will say for someone to be following up on Christopher Lee, he did well. I thought it was a really good performance.
And he was clearly fucking enjoying the hell out of it.
Oh, God. I think everyone was enjoying the hell out of those scenes. They were fantastic. But you're right, the shift in tone is noticeable there. Yeah.
And I watched it with my wife. It was too much for her. She was like, no, I don't know. This is not right.
Yeah, I can understand that.
She said at the end of the movie, she said, I did enjoy it, but for her, the shifts was too much.
Sure.
And for me, it wasn't that they were too much, because I think
I guess if you've watched the other Kingsman movies, you're kind of expecting it to come.
Yeah, well, she has, but
oh, okay.
I guess she's seen. I think she's. Not sure.
I mean, having said that, the other ones are more set in that tone, like throughout. This movie, you're right, it's quite grounded, and then it has moments, particularly the Rasputin moment and the climax, where it just gets silly, and you're like, okay, we're in Kingsman territory now.
I think, and there's the scene in No Man's Land again was, you could sort of see it happening, like like in real life, you could see that they weren't going to shoot each other, because if they made
they did,
and I guess if it was just like a little tussle, maybe it was okay. Maybe it would have been all right.
Yeah.
But again, because it's a Kingsman movie,
it goes
full on mental knife fight in the middle of No Man's Land.
Yeah.
Which again, for me, was
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
It is, but I also do get the whole, the First World War tone, the sort of the enormity of the misery and suffering of the First World War, and then it's very. I'm glad that they didn't go too far over the top with the actual dealing with the war itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I agree, and I mean,
would not get on with it.
As much as I enjoyed Wonder Woman did skirt a little close in places. Where it and again that skirts the line where it's like you do see the suffering, and you do see the horrors of the war, but then also it's got fucking Wonder Woman like destroying a fucking building, and and Ares on an airfield at the end, so it's difficult, and I agree with you from that perspective. This film's tone shift, it's not a consistent tone like you get with the other two Kingsman movies.
No. But I
like the story, though. I thought overall the story was very well woven throughout real history.
Just as on a historical thing, I was a little pissed off that Yusupov didn't get his moment.
Yeah.
The guy who really killed Rasputin, he
gets
completely sidelined. It's like, I was kind of
you were kind of hoping he'd make the save kind of thing.
Yeah, I was hoping that he'd turn up, and at least then you'd get the Yusupov bit. Because do you know the story about Christopher Lee and Yusupov?
No, I don't think so.
He met him when he was a kid.
Oh yes, I did know that.
To his house.
Christopher Lee's fucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude just met everyone and did it's like. I mean, I guess that does happen when you're you live for like 100 years. I guess you probably see a lot of people in he
certainly lived in turbulent times, didn't he? So.
Yeah, he did.
But so there's just so many really good things in it that I think it's just too enjoyable to be. I found it enjoyable enough for me to just.
I agree.
Not forget about the tonal shifts, but at least not let them bother me quite so much.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
they are there, and I think it helps that all the characters were good. They were all.
Yes, everyone was great, villains and heroes.
What's the kid? I don't think I've seen him in anything else.
I couldn't place him.
Dickinson. I don't think I've seen him in anything else, and he was really good.
I thought he was terrific.
He was one of the voices in the Dark Crystal. Okay.
Oh, cool. The series.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't help because
the puppets. Yeah.
But I haven't seen him in anything else. But I really liked him. I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
There was one thing that did really bother me actually about when he swaps over.
Yes.
He basically goes up to it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was like, at first I didn't recognise him. I thought that looks like no. And I looked, I was like, Jesus Christ, it is that. Anyway, Aaron Taylor Johnson. He basically just goes up to this dude because he's roughly his size.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Yeah.
And he says, he goes, they swap places. He goes over, and then he gives them this letter for his father.
Yeah.
And his father reads this letter, and he says, "Oh, this he's a good man. He's this, and this. I think he's really." And it's like, how did you know any of that? You basically just
you don't know any of it. Yeah.
No, he literally just went up to him and said, "Oh,
hey mate,
let's swap outfits.
I can get you out of this horrendous job you're about to do."
I mean,
yeah.
The other thing that it's integral to the plot. But I did think, why the fuck would you choose someone from Blackwatch?
Yeah, it was a little odd.
It's like you are the most English dude here.
Yep.
Why the fuck would you go to someone from Blackwatch and say, "Hey, you're at my site. Let's change outfits"?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But fine,
fun movie.
It was really enjoyable. I really liked it. I think it was probably better than the second one.
I was going to say, I think, this is probably my second favorite of the movies. I think the first one still stands above it, but I really like this. And, I have this instant, revulsion or fear when prequels are announced to things. I'm like, oh, no. But this is proof you can do it. This worked really well. Yeah. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, and I think... Like you said, I think for the most part, although it changes a bit of some of the historical stuff,
yeah.
For the most part, it remains pretty respectful. It doesn't change anything too drastically.
It's not like crazy.
The Yusupov thing was just a bit of a pet peeve for me.
Yeah, but, and I mean, I guess they're a secret organization, so someone else probably got the credits, not them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the idea.
Okay. And I liked a lot of this, the actual setup for. The two setups that I liked were the setup for the round table thing.
Yeah, that was great.
That was quite good. I like that. And I did like the Oxford's Not Brogues.
Yeah.
How it was originally Oxford's Not Rogues.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought that was actually quite nice. Some people might find it a little cheesy, but I actually thought it was quite well done. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it's really good. It was really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no expert on Scottish accents, but I thought
he was quite convincing. Probably not enough to convince an actual
Scot. No, I imagine if you're Scottish, it's probably ludicrous. But
yeah,
I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty good. I've certainly fucking heard worse.
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
Yeah, Simon Pegg.
Which is weird because his wife's actually Scottish as well. But I thought his Scotty was awful.
Yeah, but I think Simon Pegg is doing Scotty, isn't he? He's not really doing Scottish.
There is that.
I mean, Scotty wasn't Scottish. I mean, he was Canadian Scottish, I suppose. But...
Yeah. But yeah, good fun.
Yeah, really good fun. All Charles Dance's Kitchener. You've got
Yes, Charles Dance.
Just little bits and pieces of the Mata-Hari character. Daniel Brawl is Aniston, and the thing at the very end.
Yeah.
The little cutscene at the end was like, yeah, I kind of saw it coming, but
it was cool anyway.
It was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. It was all right. I did kind of like it. I do like the sort of. I mean, it does make it sort of like the most ridiculous elements of Bond in.
It really does. Yeah.
This sort of it's like they're Spectre, aren't they? These guys. They've got the worst villains that you have available to sort of in their ranks. It was good fun. I really enjoyed it, and I like you said, I would more than happily watch another one of those.
Yeah, me too, absolutely.
Before Ralph Fiennes gets 2.
Yeah, he looked in better shape in this than he did for Bond. He looked good in this. So
yeah. He did.
I'm not sure what order they were made in, but
you can certainly tell that some of the things really weren't him.
Oh, of course not.
Lots of dark
we're not in
sequences and that. But yeah,
we're not in Steven Seagal body swap territory yet. God. We're okay. We're okay. But yeah, great fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's everything. Is that everything?
That is.
Yeah. So yes, should mention Akira Takarada passed away, 87.
Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Obviously, known for many Godzilla movies, including the original. Plays Agata in the original, and then went on to be in some of the best Godzilla movies. Most of the ones I actually love have him in it. But yeah, so
80's good.
87, yeah, it's a good old age.
Good.
Yeah. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we disappear?
I don't think so. Should we do that rumor on the Doctor Who thing?
Oh yeah, sorry, yes, rumor on the Doctor Who.
There's a rumor on Doctor Who that they're planning a Marvel-style universe.
Everyone's doing that.
Yeah, and Hugh Grant is going to be the Doctor.
When you say Marvel-style universe, I mean, they already did that. They already had Torchwood and Sarah Jane and the Doctor. I mean, that's just Russell T Davies doing a universe again, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's already done it. He did that. You know, I mean, that actually predates the Marvel universe.
Look at the Cybermen. The Cybermen, the sort of most current Cybermen, they're all from the other universe, aren't they?
Yep.
No, they're not. They got them back from ours.
They did get the Mondasian Cybermen eventually, didn't they?
They did, yeah. But he introduced the other universe's Cybermen, and there's another Doctor in that universe as well.
Yes, there is.
He's not time for it anymore. He's just
presumably there might be an actual Doctor as well. Who knows? An actual Doctor and a human Doctor, but we'll see. I'm gonna give Russell T Davies a shot.
I mean, this is only a rumor, but
yeah, Hugh Grant, fine.
Hugh Grant, like I said, he has played the Doctor previously in a
comedy.
Was it The Curse of Fatal Death? Wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
I do love that sequence where he keeps regenerating into different people. That was funny.
It's hilarious, yeah.
The actors they chose are fantastic.
Perfect casting for each one of them as well.
Yeah,
yeah, it's really.
And
good.
Of course, the first time we see
a female Doctor. Yeah.
I don't know. It just sounds like another desperate move to try and get people back.
I mean, they must be desperate at this point, I would imagine. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll give it a go. If Russell's involved, I'll give it a watch. Out of curiosity, we'll see how it goes. It would be nice, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway.
Yep.
What are we doing? What are we watching?
I hadn't decided yet.
Oh,
it's
going to be a mystery to everyone.
I thought, I see what you think. We've done. I mean, just did a comedy, and before that we did sort of drama.
The Duelists.
Yeah, so another horror maybe.
Yeah, we could do another horror.
What would you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. It's quite broad. I'm looking at DVDs right now.
Yeah.
What we got? I don't know, because we did Hammer recently as well, didn't we?
Yep.
So we should do something other than those.
How about Night of the Living Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm amazed we haven't already done that, but yeah.
We have not.
No. Okay.
So,
yeah.
Original Night. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean, we could probably touch on the remake as well, which is.
Oh yeah, we.
I do have a soft spot for that remake.
I like. Do you know what? I think all of the remake. Well, not all of them because they're later stuff. But
I've not seen the Day of the Dead remake. I've never seen that.
Right. I think they're all pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I liked. I mean, even Snyder's Dawn has got one of the best openings to a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like ever. It's amazing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so yeah, why not Night of the Living Dead? It's been a while since I've watched it, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Works for me. But yeah, well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.